So we're standing here in Wadi Rum, and we're where the white desert meets the red desert, and we had a wonderful conversation with our Bedouin guide Fayez about what this area was like before fossil fuel vehicles disrupted the transportation system of the caravans using camels and goats and sheep and horses and donkeys. And the speculation I had was that this must have been much, much greener, particularly along the caravan routes, than it is today, because while it doesn't rain much here, and that may not, well, it's going to be changing now because of climate change, but that may not have changed in the past couple of centuries, the introduction of fossil fuel vehicles stopped people from moving water from place to place in the form of what Lynn Margulis called the hypersea, which is living water, the bodies of organisms. And the desert as we know it was not deserted in the past. It was filled with people and animals and vegetation. Yes, the precipitation was low, but of course when you have intelligence in the form of human beings moving water from a spring, like we saw inside the mountains here, those pools that we saw in that narrow sick that we went through, the Lawrence spring that was coming down the mountainside that they tapped into, the wells that are here, Bir, then you find that people and animals would drink up the water and fill up their stomachs, fill up their tissues. They would fill up water containers, and then they'd start moving down the caravan. And as they moved, the animals would randomly defecate. So they would be making droppings, and they'd be urinating and taking that now nutrient-enhanced water and raining it down, a living rain as they traveled. Thousands and thousands and thousands of these animals and people moving every year back and forth in these vast trade routes between the great civilizations. So they were bringing water and they were spreading it. And of course, they were also spreading seeds because they would have been eating. The animals would have been eating. The birds are eating as they're flying by. We saw that going through here. Of course, there's also just small mammals around here and reptiles. And of course, the people are eating, and they're eating fruits, and they're throwing date seeds, and they're throwing olive pits. And so you have these seeds being seeded, going through people and animals with the droppings, with moisture, constant moisture, fertilizing the desert sands. That would have created an ecology that was much superior to what we see today. Now, here's the irony. We who are descendants of the extractive economies, whether it's Middle Eastern or European, members of the exploitation class, members of the parasitic classes, member of groups who had exploited the landscape, we would tell each other stories about how when human beings get involved, they ruin things. And Jordan has fallen prey to this narrative as well, because there is we were told by our Bedouin guides, there is an area not too far from here where they fenced off the wilderness area and kept all human beings from coming in. No grazing, no tourists, no visitors.
No hunting.
And it's coming back. So they say the trees are coming back, the vegetation's coming back, it's reforesting, the animals are back, the gazelles. But to say that that is the natural condition is to say that intelligence is less important than non-intelligence, or let's say that the intelligence of the ecosystem without the human intelligence can do better than the ecosystem with the human animal's intelligence. And that makes no sense logically. Yes, if you do tragic things like the tragedy of the commons where you don't communicate and you overexploit areas, then human presence can be bad. And that's what we're told. Oh, the people would come with their animals and overgraze and the place would turn to desert. But that's a narrative that comes from the city-states. I think that the Bedouins and other people who lived on the land were very in tune with their environment, and they knew that they were enhancing the vegetation and the wildlife by being present and moving water back and forth, moving nutrients back and forth. So I would just like to stimulate us in the UN SDG class and in our future sustainability classes to rethink this idea that human grazing, human beings and their animals, is the cause of desertification, when in fact, in many places, it may have been the antidote to desertification. It may have been how human beings maintained habitability in this area for the thousands of years when there were climatic shifts. So that's the idea to contemplate right now, that we have a legacy, and he's got to actually now, you want to take your fertigation, you get your nitrogen and your phosphorus and your potassium, and you're going to put it on the desert sands. See, he's going to rain where it doesn't rain, and that's the importance of this. All right, where are we going to go? Right here? Okay.